Didn't know anything. I'm going to talk about that a little more, I'm sure. But at the end of the day, that business worked out and turned 7-figure within 26 months, and I became financially independent. So yeah, so that's the sort of long story of how I realized I wanted a different path.
When did you know you wanted to do this, right?
Yeah, so that's a fantastic question. In fact, if you ask me now, I would have never thought that this is the path I'm going down. So I guess that is the thing about life, right? Sometimes in order to find out what exactly it is that you like, some people are lucky at an early age, they may already discover that they love to draw, they love to take photos and all this thing, but not so much for the case for me. And for a lot of people, maybe they haven't found their passion or so-called their calling or purpose at a younger age. So I do believe that is a discovery journey that you have to try new things, really listen to your heart and dig deeper into what is it that makes you happy, brings you joy. Like time just go by really quickly when you do certain things. That is your passion. And when you follow your passion, that leads you to a purpose, as said by Oprah Winfrey, right? So for me, it was definitely a discovery journey. When I was growing up, I grew up in a pretty traditional middle-class family in Hong Kong. So like a lot of Asian family, we go to school, get good grades, get a good job, work hard in your job and save money and invest in, mutual funds and all that. And then hopefully when you work 30, 40 years, right, by the age of 60, 65 even, people retire and then that would be the retired life. So to be honest with you, I never really thought about being an entrepreneur, being a business owner ever when I was growing up. So it was not something that I was exposed to because my neighbors, my family, my relatives, I didn't have the exposure. And all my friends around me also were, pretty follow the steps, graduated, go to work for corporate, go for work in different jobs. So I was never really exposed to that. In fact, after I graduated, I did work more than 10 years in the corporate world. And what I found out was I was following so-called the formula of success almost to the T. In other words, I was getting really good grades in school. In fact, straight A student, I ranked first in my province for mathematics. I got 6 scholarships going into university. Wow. And I nailed it. Even at university, I was in engineering, did my bachelor and master, all straight A, and came out in the corporate world, was working really hard. And quickly, at a young age, I was already advanced to a very senior position in a, multinational corporation, making a 5-figure US dollars income per month. So on the outside, it looked great, right? Most people would say, oh, you're successful. Most people would say that. However, what I found was looking inside, I was miserable. I was not happy. I was feeling empty. I didn't feel that I had the fire, I had the passion in my job. I was just doing the job because I needed to. I needed to pay rent. I needed to, live. I needed to feel like it's the right thing to do because so-called society wants you to have a job. So it was sort of how I lived that more than 10 years. And every Sunday night, I would feel like so depressed because knowing that next morning I have to wake up and go to work. So I think that would be anybody who is living a job, working a job that they don't like, they probably felt the same thing. So I definitely don't think that I was alone, but yet most people would just continue to live that way for the next 30 years. For me, the wake-up call was during 2008 to 2010, there was a global financial crisis. It started in the US with the real estate market. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I was actually living in the US. So it was a really, really scary time. In fact, I remember the stock market just tanked, the real estate market tanked. And in fact, I was working in the corporate world back then. Just over the weekend, when I go back to my clients, almost the whole department of the clients' employees were laid off. So it was a very drastic and scary time. And during that time, I was just focusing on my work. And without knowing, when I finally looked back at my financial statement, I found that I've lost more than 60% of my stock portfolios. And the new house that I just bought a few months prior to that crisis was underwater. The house is worth less than the loan that I own to the bank.
Wow.
So it was really a wake up call because I was exactly following the so-called formula of success. And yet, I don't know what happened. I was just in this big hole. At the same time, feeling so depressed, literally feel like I've wasted years of saving my money. So it was a huge wake up call. So I think it planted a seed in me that I wanted to look for something, maybe a different path that could maybe perhaps lead to a different solution, a different way out. Because when I look around, when I actually have that awareness, I look around, I find that, hey, although most people around me was living that same way, going to a job that maybe they don't like. However, there are a small percentage of people that seem to have a lot more freedom doing things that they really love. And that's when I started to really look around at what are the options. So until 2011, when I finally started my first business, it was really a wake-up call. So something happened that I was exposed to a cash flow 101 game. Don't know if you heard about that, but it's a board game that was invented by Robert Kiyosaki. It talks about how you can build your passive income. And when your passive income is finally bigger than your expenses, then you become financially independent. You can have a choice of whether you want to work or not work. And if you love your job, continue to do it, right? So I was very, very enlightened. That was like literally a life-changing moment for me. It was August 21st, 2011. So more than 10 years ago. And it was that day that I was like, okay, I'm going to figure it out because obviously someone is making it work and I'm going to figure it out. So that was the changing moment. And from then on, I started my business within a few days. Didn't know anything. I'm going to talk about that a little more, I'm sure. But at the end of the day, that business worked out and turned 7-figure within 26 months. And I became financially independent.
That's crazy.
So, yeah. So that's the sort of long story of how I realized I wanted a different path.
And then I'm sure because where you are right now and what you're focused on right now, during that entrepreneurial phase, you realize that there's so much more and not just for yourself, right? Is that why you became a speaker as well?
Yes. So it is a very interesting journey. Everyone that I talk to, if they ask me about my entrepreneur journey, I always say it's a self-discovery journey because you get to know so much about yourself. You get to know your strength. You get to know whether you have the consistency, whether you have the strength to step up again after you fall down, because over the entrepreneur journey, it's not smooth sailing.
No.
It's always up and down. You're going to go through things. You're going to have to continuously to push through a lot of self-limiting beliefs and self-doubts and constantly get out of your comfort zone and constantly learn new things because the world is changing so fast. It's competitive. It's not like you're in, you don't guarantee a paycheck at the end of the month. Basically, you have to keep reinventing and being the best that you can possibly be so that you can bring more value. Because as Zig Ziglar said, right? If people like you, they will listen to you. But if people trust you, they will do business with you. And the way to build that trust is to continue to bring more value to people. And that is why being an entrepreneur, I believe, is so important to continue to learn, continue to grow yourself so that you can be a bigger person and always share that value, whatever that you're learning, whatever that you're doing, you think that you can contribute. That's when you bring a value to the people. And if once you connect with who you really are and what is important to you and continue to do that, you attract your tribe. You attract the right people to you because you giving out your vibe, your value, and your stories and your basically your core values. People who believe in you and believe in the same thing as you, they want to listen to you. They will follow you. So that's how the whole thing turns out. Of course, I know none of this when I started, but all of this is through learning from, mentors, learning from people around me who are successful and taking baby steps and gradually, in the last 10, 11, almost 12 years now, right? 2011, so 11 years. Yeah, just slowly, gradually grew to where I am today.
That's awesome. Very inspirational.